Hi, it's Janine Vosper from Speech Perfect, back with you and with Moana Robinson from Be Style for Life. Our expert today is Barbara Clifford, and she is the time tamer. And she's also a time management strategist and a stress management practitioner.
Practitioner.
I
You
know
got you
it,
did
it
that
was a fair bit of
well.
mouthful, and I think I've got it now. One of the things that Barbara is absolute expert on and is going to be able to give us a whole lot of information that's going to be so valuable at this time is how to deal with change. And the world is in this massive state of change at the moment. And I think anything that we can pick up and any information that we can grab onto and be able to apply to reduce the stress in our life is wonderful. So thank you, Barbara. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
How do we deal with change?
Well, yeah. So look, I think one thing that's common for all of us is
Oh, we
that,
just lost Moana, but that's okay. We can
yeah,
keep going.
she's me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Probably the internet that's dropped out. One of the things that is common, that's the same for all of us, is change. That's inevitable. Everything changes all the time. But the research has shown that people who are the most resilient, emotionally resilient, are comfortable with change. They embrace change. They feel comfortable with it. So if we can, Mindy's back. Hi,
Hi,
Mindy.
hey Mindy. We're in
Thanks.
the, we're in the middle of Barbara's interview with about change. We're learning all about change here, which is important.
Hi.
And we've just sort of thrown her off track, but go back to it again.
Hey, this is
And there's some
exactly
change.
exactly what I was talking about, is
Right.
rolling with the punches and being able to adapt with change. Now, one of the things that we are seeing in this kind of environment is a type of stress called anticipatory stress. So worrying about the
Okay.
what ifs, what's going to happen, what's happening in the future. And a lot of people are feeling anxiety around that environment and not feeling comfortable with that change. So the number one, the most important thing is, and this is what all of the counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, it's a common thread in the advice that's being put out there about mental well-being, is focusing on what's within our control at the moment. That's the number one thing, is just
Mhm.
focusing on that. There's the Serenity Prayer, which I can never remember off by heart. It's used by Alcoholics Anonymous for a very long time. And the prayer goes along the lines of, God, grant me the wisdom to know what's within my control and what's not, and to be able to tell the difference. It's a very, very, most people know it's a very common prayer. So here's another tip that was developed by a psychiatrist that's incredibly powerful. I know, disclaimer, I'm not a counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist. I'm a stress management practitioner. I do stress management coaching, but this tool is incredibly powerful. I'm not trained in cognitive brain therapy either, but this is the principle. And basically what we're doing is rewiring our brain to operate differently. We're tricking our brain, we're hacking our brain. A common emotion or a common feeling or sensation that we'll have at the moment is anxiety. And we'll even be saying to ourselves, ooh, what if I'm feeling anxious? We'll have that inner dialogue with ourselves. And so what our brain does is seek out evidence for why you should feel like that. It's like it's qualifying that thought or that belief. Yes, you should be anxious because of this. And what about this? And what about this? Media stuff doesn't help.
No.
So what we need to do is actually say, I'm excited. And it sounds crazy to actually do that. But if you think about a roller coaster ride, if you've been on the roller coaster, have you guys been on a roller coaster?
It's my
If you,
favorite thing in the world to do. I have been on roller coasters
yeah,
everywhere.
that does not
I love roller
does
coasters.
not surprise me. Does not surprise me at all. So a roller coaster is, oh my God, I'm really scared. Whee, this is fun. I'm excited. Oh my God, I'm really scared. Whee, this is fun. So it's a combination of anxiety and excitement because they kind of sit on the same spectrum. So when we say I'm excited, we shift our thinking process. So anxiety is fear-based and going in and trying to protect yourself, going inwards, where when you say I'm excited, it's outward trajectory. And what happens is our brain searches for evidence of, well, why are you excited? And what that does is allow our mind to open up to opportunity and look for evidence of why it should be excited. And what it does in this environment is open you up to the flexibility of change, of alternative options, of solutions, of where the benefits are in this difficult situation that you're in. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. If you start just having that as a mantra, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, your brain will seek out the evidence for that.
Oh, that's such a powerful tool to use, because it does, it's a completely different word. I know I use it with people doing public speaking as well, is to use that word excited rather than being fearful. And one of the things you said about being out of control, and I know that when I'm about last week, it was for me, I had a conference to reorganize. I had a retreat that we're running overseas to figure out what we're going to do with that. And as we know, with this, with the virus and the shutdown, every single day is a different answer. And I had 5 workshops. I had a whole lot of online training, a whole lot of stuff to restructure, and I couldn't make decisions. And that's so unlike me. To not be, I normally can just go, that's the answer. And I was talking to Moana, and she said, it's because you're used to being in control. And I went, oh yeah, okay, I can't control that. So my focus since then has been on what I can control.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Here's Mo. She's coming back.
Mo's coming back. We mentioned your name, so you came back on. Barbara's been talking about being excited rather than being fearful, and I mentioned that I said to you the other day about not being able to make decisions and not being in control. And I think that's where a lot of people are sitting at the moment, isn't it? That everything seems to be out of control, and every single day has got a different answer to things. And we're just not sure of what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yes.
And I think the other thing, Janine, that's really important, what you've identified, is that when we are in a state of stress, it's difficult. Our brain doesn't function the same way. And so one of the things that is really difficult to do is make decision, and also to be able to take a course of action. Now more than ever, it's important to find coaches, and there's all of us here coach and provide service in some capacity. So there is so much support just to have someone outside looking in to give you a different viewpoint, because when you're stressed, that's when people do irrational things. And you look at them and go, oh my, what are they doing? But they're operating in a space of stress, and they're not thinking rationally, able to make sensible decision.
Oh, absolutely. Any questions, Mindy, at all? Anything that you want to ask Barbara or comment on yourself?
Just that last bit, actually, about being in that point of stress. How do you remove yourself from that stress and try and make a conscious decision? How do we know we're in stress and we're making a silly decision?
Wow, that's a big question. And I think the most important thing around that is that stress is different for everybody. So when you're stressed is different to when I'm stressed. For example, and I know Janine will understand this, is that for some people, the thought of getting on stage or just speaking like this or speaking in front of 3 people, they wouldn't be able to sleep for 3 days. And then somebody else would go, like me or Janine or Moana or you, we go speaking in front of 1,000 people. Yeah, no worries.
I'm excited.
So, one experience can be stressful for one person and not for another. So we each experience stress in different ways. The key is to identify what your own personal triggers are. And once again, they're different for everybody. Some people will get sweaty palms. I get tight in my chest and tight in my shoulders. Most of us will have an increased heart rate. They are signs that we are stressed. There's a whole range of things: not being able to sleep at night, not being able to shut off your brain, affected digestive system, weight gain, not being able, loss of appetite. There's a whole range of things that are a sign that we are stressed. So it's those things to look for. But there are simple things like the tool that I just shared with you, or just slowing down your breathing. Really slowing down your breathing will quickly alter you, shift you out of a state. And taking yourself into a different environment is really good as well. Going outside, if you can, is really, really powerful as well.
Remove yourself from the situation.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Change your scenery.
Yeah. Just before we wrap up, Moana, did you want to add anything, say a question for Barbara at all?
No, I'll be keen to watch this to find out what the tool is.
It's excited. You're excited.
Yeah, to me, like breathing is so important, isn't it? The proper type of breathing, like breathing right down into your stomach as opposed to the shallow chest breathing.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's the science has shown that if you do that, it will release good hormones into your system. It slows down the production of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and releases little doses of dopamine. So it's so undervalued and underestimated as a tool, but it's very powerful.
Oh, that's excellent. So Barbara, how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more about what you do and how that can help them with learning how to work through the change that's happening at the moment?
So there's a number of different tools and resources that I've got on my website. If you go to timetamer.com.au, there's an events list there, which will list any of the challenges, training, all of the things that I'm doing. There's always resources. And if you go to timetamer.com.au, that's my website, you'll find it. Or you can find Time Tamer on Facebook page as well, which has got lots of information and resources there as well.
No, it's fantastic. Great advice, great ideas. Thank you. That's Barbara Clifford, the Time Tamer. And we're with Mindy Wendt, who is Mindy Joy Marketing, Moana Robinson from Be Style for Life, and I'm Janine Vosper from Speech Perfect. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.